Blog Talk Radio.
Greetings, everybody. This is M. John Allen, and we have a fantastic show for you tonight. We're going to have the Conductor on the Freedom Train, both on tape and live tonight. We're going to have the taped portion first, and then after that, we're going to have her live and in person tonight. So stay tuned. And we're also going to have another special surprise guest. The following is an Ambassador Foundation production. Welcome to the Ambassador for World Peace program with M. John Allen. Each week we bring you the solutions to this world's problems and the good news of the world tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, here is M. John Allen. Sorry, folks, for the dead air. There is something wrong with the system here. The switchboard was not functioning properly, but we are starting the show now. We were talking about how that this is a work in progress, and you're freely admitting that. You have
the business of the knowledge. Yes, my
right.
father also told me about the same time before I got sidetracked that if I ever lived long enough to know just half of what I thought I knew at that point in time, I was going to be the smartest person in the world.
So that's pretty good. But I mean, it is refreshing because a lot of these so-called gurus who get people in trouble and lead them down the garden path, as you mentioned in the first part of this program, they pretend to be Mr. Know-it-alls, and you can't tell them anything. And that's the problem.
It's fear. This is also fear, if you stop and think about it. It's ego, and it is fear that they're going to be shown up as not being as knowledgeable as they really want people to think they are. So their defensiveness is fear.
I see. Okay.
I have no qualms about saying, I don't know that. I don't have any answers for that question yet. I'm working on it, or I haven't gotten to that yet, or I don't think I'm going to go there either, and I don't have an answer.
But I do really believe that is a much better attitude. It's showing that you're a person that knows what you're talking about, and when you don't know the answer to a certain question, you're going to say it, not try to cover it up and pretend that you know something you don't, which means for somebody who would be thinking about doing this with you, that they're in good hands, because you're not, you're being honest, you're being truthful, you're not lying, you're not exaggerating, you're just telling the unvarnished, plain truth.
Well, yes, that is correct, and that was a nice compliment. Thank you.
Okay. Now, some other people are going to say, and I know we've covered a little bit of this ground before, but this was one of our pre-programmed things here, and it does touch on something. Somebody's going to say, well, isn't this like the freemen in Montana? Didn't they all go to jail?
Well, yeah, I guess they did, and even though I didn't know what was happening at the time, I was very much in sympathy with them. And I'm still in sympathy with what they thought they were doing, although I've heard rumors that they were a lot about the money too, but I'm not sure that's true. You hear a lot of rumors about people, and I don't know that that's true. But they were slaves. They had never rebutted or denied their U.S. citizen status, U.S. person status, taxpayer status. And they were standing in the court trying to take over control of the courtroom, and basically all the government was saying was, you're not living up to your end of the contract you voluntarily signed. And they were saying, we don't like the contract anymore, we think it really stinks, and we are going to do whatever we have to do, resort to violence if necessary, write all kinds of bogus bills of whatever the heck they called them, I don't remember now, but they were going around trying to collect massive amounts of money on these bogus things. And we're going to find backdoor ways of taking money out of the system because we don't like the contract we signed.
Mm-hmm.
Who was right? Sorry, government was right. They were wrong.
Right, and they hadn't followed.
They did not have status to make the claims they were trying to make.
Right. So, if you do this wrong, folks, then you're going to jail. That's all there is to it. Let's spend a second on this here.
Bills of exchange. That's what they called them.
They were bills of exchange, right?
I think they were bills of exchange. Yeah.
They were trying to pass them like checks, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They were trying to cash them here and there and pass them office checks and pay for things with them. And there's, as far as I know, there's no grounding for that. There may be. I'm not going to put anyone down on this. There may be an element of truth. If there's anything I've learned, never say no. Never say never.
Mm-hmm.
Because there may be an element of factuality to what these people were trying to do. I've just never gone into that element. I've never researched it, so I don't want to comment on it.
Right. But we of course, know of a case personally, you and I, of somebody who had drawn up some instruments based on violations of his civil rights, etc., in the hundreds of millions of dollars, and these instruments, and it looked legitimate. They looked like they were real and genuine, but then, as we found out later, if you recall, he didn't have the appropriate status to do what he was doing.
I believe the terminology was he tried to monetize these debt instruments, claims that he had made against the United States corporate government of violations of his rights, and he had claimed injury, and he had attached an amount to it of damage, and he had noticed them out and believed that he had a judgment in commerce.
Right.
But the problem was, when he tried to monetize these instruments in foreign countries, he found out that he did not have, quote-unquote, legal standing to make the claim in the first place, and therefore the instruments were void.
And in fact, it could have been claimed by the government, which they didn't do, and there may be reasons for that, that because he wasn't in the right status, that could have been claimed as fraud against the United States.
Yes, the terminology that they use is an attempt to defraud the United States, which of course is a felony.
But if he would have been a sovereign, he would have had the standing, and that would not have been an attempt to fraud the United States. It would have been true.
That's correct. Although I think he should have kept his amounts within the realm of reason and common sense, and not gotten into millions and millions and millions and hundreds of millions of dollars, because I saw some of those instruments, and they were enough to make Bozo the Clown roll his eyes.
Yeah, actually, some of them were in the billions, if I recall. And I was talking to him on the phone, and he said he could have actually asked for trillions. So, I don't know if his calculations were correct, but it just shows the difference there of, in one status it's fraud, in another status it's not. And slaves do not have the standing to make claims against their master for violations of their rights, because they have no rights.
Well, I kind of laugh, and I try to see the humor in it, and I tell people, here you are a slave with your leg chains and chains on your wrists, and you're rattling your chains, stomping your feet, and jumping up and down, and calling your master an SOV. How far do you think you're going to get with this?
But yet, if you're not a slave, you can make it stick.
Well, at least you're not going to go to jail for trying to commit fraud. I mean, the foreign jurisdictions may laugh at you because of your ridiculous amounts and say it doesn't ring true because it's too far out of the realm of reality, but at least you're not going to be prosecuted for trying to defraud somebody.
Right. But I mean, if it was a correct amount, it might actually work. And, we're not going to say exactly what he was trying to do, but I really, as I said, I examined it at the time, which was about 2 years ago now, and it really looked legitimate, but, when we looked under the hood, so to speak, we saw the guy didn't have the standing to make these claims, and so it would be fraudulent for him and anybody that tried to help him. So, okay, I'm going to wrap this up with a few minor questions here that people might have, such as, can I vote?
No.
Do you want to elaborate, or?
Only U.S. citizens can vote. Law says so.
Okay. Will I have to take my kids out of public school?
No, you don't have to take your children out of public school if you don't want to, but I'll tell you what, your children are your most valuable asset. why would you put them in public fool school?
Mm-hmm. Okay, now here's another one we touched on, but I want to ask the specific question. Will my employer still withhold taxes from my check?
Your employer will attempt to continue to withhold taxes because they have been propagandized and brainwashed to believe they absolutely have to, or they'll be punished. This is going to be one of the struggles to stop the withholding.
So you're going to have to go through the notice process with your employer if they refuse to cooperate. Okay.
That's correct. You're going to have to notice them of your status, and it's going to take a series of legal steps to secure yourself so that the employer understands that he is violating the rights of a sovereign if he continues to steal from you, and that you will prosecute him.
Okay. Okay, now here's an internet favorite. I've seen websites and heard people give radio shows on this particular subject. Can I renounce all of my debt since the bank never actually lent me legal money, but just Federal Reserve notes which are fraudulent?
There's some validity to that argument. I would prefer at this time to look at it not from the sins of omission or commission on the part of the banking system, which we all agree is part of the slave system. It is the whole heart and soul of the slave system. It's all about the money. But look at it from the intent of the individual who borrowed the money.
Mm-hmm.
Did it benefit you? Did you intend to pay it back? In this case, I would say that you are obligated for the principal, but not for the interest.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You're morally and ethically obligated for the principal which you used.
Mm-hmm.
But I would have reservations about being obligated for the compound interest.
Okay. And of course, this is one of those areas that's going to need more research in the future. Okay, let's say that somebody decides, they listen to this program, they decide they want to pursue this further. What information are you going to need from a there I go saying person, but I guess they are persons right now. What information?
Wash your mouth out with soap.
What information are you going to need from someone in order to get them started on this process?
Information would be father's name, mother's name, my father and mother's place of birth, the place of your birth, the client's birth, the name given at birth, the county, the city, if it was in a city, municipality, whatever it may have been, and of course the state republic. There would be, just basic information.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
The Social Security number, just basic information, nothing complex, nothing that anyone would have to hunt for. There will be a copy of the birth certificate that will be used as an exhibit and attached to the documents to show as proof of where the location of birth. And other than that, nothing else need be provided from the client. Everything else is, for instance, the U.S. government style manual, which designates what you were when you were born in law, and that those documents are things that will be attached to as exhibits as well, but nothing that the client himself needs to provide.
Okay. How long does the process take?
From start to finish, approximately 2.5 months.
2.5 months. Although if you're backlogged, it may take longer.
That's true. That is true, because not very many people understand the process, and there's not a whole army of ants out there doing this.
Mm-hmm. So there could be a point where you get saturated and there start to be some delays until other people get educated to be able to help you in processing the paperwork, I would guess.
Correct.
Let me see. All right, let's open this one up. This might take a few minutes. We can go into a little bit of overtime if we need to. But let's say that somebody owns their own business, which is in a corporate structure. will they have to quit using the corporation? And what kind of complications is this going to entail for somebody who's in business?
It could entail complications, but I would definitely take the business and change its nature, take it to a direct owned, because you're no longer subject to the corporate jurisdiction. Unless you have created an injury, you're not going to be sued.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So basically,
Do you want to keep insurance? You might.
Mm-hmm.
Just, again, as a time saving, what's it worth to you? Is it going to cost you $300 or $400 a year for insurance in case someone falls on your front steps? You might want to do that.
You might want to,
or you might want to do the confrontation on the thing and say, I did nothing to seduce you to walk on my sidewalk, and under common law, you took your chances. You pays your money, you take your chances.
Right, and they actually couldn't sue you anyway.
Correct.
Okay. So, however, something like workman's compensation or something like that you might elect to pay in case one of your workers gets injured. And I would think if somebody had an actual work-related injury performing their job on your premises, that would be a common law situation, so you might want to have workers' compensation to take care of them should something like that happen, right?
I agree, and your worker is not likely to be a national sovereign themselves.
Mm-hmm. So, in other words, in some of this, you're going to be using some common sense,
Again, you have to live in this world, and to some extent, you're going to have to go along with the program.
Okay.
Depending on what your role is.
Now, here is a question that uses some terminology from the Patriot community. We've heard things about renouncing your birth certificate, renouncing your marriage licenses, etc. Are you renouncing anything?
I'd like to make a joke of that, but I can't exactly think of the right verbiage. But you can't renounce something that you already did. You can say, I'm sorry, I made a mistake, but you can't vanish it.
Mm-hmm.
You can stipulate your intent or your belief at the time you created the document. And you can change the nature of the document that way, but you can't unexist it.
Right, and it doesn't belong to you anyway, right? Because that's a creation of the corporate conglomerate, and it belongs to them, correct? Like the birth certificate.
You can state that it never was the intent of myself or my wife to go into a three-way partnership with the state, and therefore the marriage license, for the intent that it was created, is void from our point of view. We renounce the intent of the marriage license, because the marriage license there were hidden adhesions that were never disclosed to us. We had no intention of getting married to the state.
Getting married to the state, which is actually what people have done, but you're more in reserving your rights because that marriage license doesn't belong to you. It's a creation of the state. So
exactly.
You just say it doesn't apply to you in reserve.
It's a corporate document.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let me see if there's anything else here. Okay. Well, for a lot of people out there who may not understand this, what do you mean by statutory law?
Statutory law applies to territorial insular possession citizens that are under the exclusive jurisdiction of Congress. It does not apply to freeborn men and women. Okay.
And the common law is something different, though. That does apply to everyone.
Yes, it does.
Okay. Okay, let's say that somebody wants to get started. How much does it cost?
Depending on where you are, if this is someone who is outside the geographical borders of the United States and they're residing in another country and they don't want to come back here to do anything other than perhaps notarizations or something like that, in other words, they don't want to come back here to live, then Actually, I would say probably quite pricey. That's something that I would have to go into a little bit further. But for domestic clients, we're looking at $6,000 a piece.
Okay. But again, for the offshore people, the expats, it's going to be on a case-to-case basis. I understand that, you know, they're each in different situations with different complications and different things, and it's going to be priced accordingly, correct?
That's correct, because we're going to have different issues. Some people are just going to be retirees with no particular issues, and even though it's going to involve a lot more paperwork and a lot more coming and going and toing and froing and work, it's work intensive. Of course, as you probably figured out by now, all of this is work intensive. It's not a boilerplate thing.
Mm-hmm.
We don't push a button on some kind of a magical IBM copy machine and it creates all this for us. This is not the way it works.
Right.
However, I would say that it would range somewhere between $20,000 and up.
Okay. Okay. So, and I think that's fair for what they're getting, because they can have the best of both worlds of living outside the United States, yet being having the benefits of being an American national sovereign. It can be quite powerful. That's beyond the scope of this program, but I think we might do a different show just for that at some future date, because there are certain benefits and reasons that people would want to do it, even though they have left the country and maybe even taken on another citizenship in a foreign country. There are still reasons. So, but as I said, that's on the scope of today's program.
Very, very positive reasons, because once your documentation is filed with the consulates and the embassies in whatever country you now reside in, it provides a degree of protection for you that you can't obtain any other way.
Right. And we're not going to really go too much into that, although we have privately. But, you know, if you're curious about it, you'll just have to wait for a follow-up program. And we probably won't do it for a few months at least anyway. Okay, here's another question that people would have. Once this is completed, will you be there to advise me, or am I going to have to pay consulting fees?
If you have further issues beyond what the basic package would cover, which is pretty wide coverage, but if you have specific issues such as with the Internal Revenue Service and so forth, there would definitely have to be further expense for you, because it's going to take a lot of time. This is not something that is going to be just a slam dunk thing. You're not going to send off a piece of paper and say, okay, it's all fixed now.
Right. And you know, your time is valuable, and you know, if people value their freedom enough, they will do it. And it's not just a boilerplate. There are people out there that do boilerplate solutions, and you know, this type of situation is not one size fits all. I'm sorry, folks, everybody's different. Here's another question that may be popping through people's mind, especially today. I'm on the no-fly list. Will this get me off of it?
No, probably not. I can't say that it won't. If the Homeland Security is, the principles of the Homeland Security are noticed and so forth, it might make a difference, but it hasn't been addressed. I really don't have an answer to the question. I would say, rather than try to make an issue at the airport about, I'm not going to take off my shoes, I'm a sovereign, it would be a lot easier to just take off your shoes rather than have them hold you up in a little side room, a little ante-room somewhere, and you miss your flight.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, you know, once again, you need to use common sense.
You're trying to exist here into what, to a great extent, is becoming a police state.
Mm-hmm.
And this will provide a great deal of protection. But you've got to use some judicious thinking about when to use it and when to try to exert it and when not to.
Okay. Okay. Now we're reaching the end of this program, and before we do, we're going to be giving contact information at the conclusion of the broadcast, which will be added later because we're creating a website which will act as a point of contact for people to contact Ms. Conductor at the end of this program. We don't have that set up yet, but that will be set up shortly, and that information will be added to this program at that time. We're pre-recording this somewhat in advance, so that will be added later. Do you have any closing comments that you would like to make?
Yes, I do. If I'm going to warrant that title of Ms. Conductor, I'm either going to have to get a baton or I'm going to have to get a really sharp little navy blue cap.
Okay. And actually, we didn't discuss at the top of the broadcast what that was all about. Would you want to share with people about the Freedom Train and what this all means?
Well, you do. I'm sure most people do recall having heard this at one time or another. But back during the days of the Reconstruction, if you will, the slaves in the South, there was what was called the Freedom Train, which was a safe houses that were interspersed across geographical areas where the slaves could go from one safe house to the other. In other words, they traveled at night. They tried to travel where they wouldn't be seen, they wouldn't be apprehended, because they would be picked up and taken back to their masters and back to the plantation that they escaped from. And it was called the Freedom Train. And I thought it was rather appropriate, because in a way that's precisely what's happening here. Is we're creating a point-to-point freedom train for people to get out of the slave state.
Right. So it's not a literal train. You know, it's just like the original Freedom Train for the slaves was not an actual train, but it was a series of steps that they had to go through to take them from the plantation where they were a slave to freedom in the North.
In the North, where they were, it was a sanctuary where they were protected. The people in the North felt that the slavery was immoral, illegal, unethical, and everything else, and they did provide work and places for the escaped slaves to find a way to make a living and to live in the North. So, but to get from where they were to where they wanted to go, they took the Freedom Train, which was the series of places where people had offered their homes or their barns or whatever, where the slaves could get there. If they could make it there, then they could know that at least for a day or so they'd be safe until they started the next leg of their journey.
Mm-hmm. So this is a very good analogy, because we're taking people from slavery to freedom, and in a
series of steps.
It's a process, and it's a journey.
Right.
It's not necessarily going to be easy, because those runaway slaves were in continuous danger until they got out of the jurisdiction of their master.
And they had to use good judgment and common sense. They couldn't travel in the daytime, and it's a lot the same. There's a lot of similarities, parallels.
Mm-hmm. And in fact, this is going to be used sort of as a template, I think, for an e-book that we're in the process of writing, and an announcement about the e-book will be posted on the website that we'll be using to distribute this program and future programs. And we have a lot of things coming up, and the information on the website and the e-book, etc., will be added as the website goes up. So, okay, I think we've been on here now for almost 2 hours and 15 minutes, but I think we pretty much have covered the Reader's Digest version of the simple questions that somebody would have.
It's a long trip from the Reader's Digest to Black's Law Dictionary, but yeah, I think we've done pretty good on the Reader's Digest part.
Right, exactly. And as I said, we're going to have an e-book coming out shortly. which will be added to the website when it is finished, and you'll be able to purchase that. I don't believe we're giving the ebook away, but you'll be able to purchase that at a very reasonable price. It will give you more information than in this series of broadcasts here, and then you can make up your own mind as to whether or not this is a decision you want to make. So,
what is it they're saying now on all of the television ads for these endless poisons, these chemicals that Big Pharma is putting out? Ask your doctor if it's right for you. Dear heavens.
Well, and of course that, the subject of health is a completely separate issue that is full of interesting things, and we will be bringing programs out on that subject as well. Our Freedom Train mistress here, the Conductor, also knows a lot about alternative health, and we won't even start talking about that right now, because otherwise we'll be here for another 6 hours. But we'll leave that sort of as a carrot for you to listen in to future interviews with Ms. Freedom, Conductor. And do you have any absolute last words before we hit the off button?
Well, thank you for whomever is listening to the program. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. And I hope it has been enlightening, if not at least a little bit of fun. It's an unusual topic. So thank you for listening.
Yes, and thank you, Ms. Conductor, for being on the program today. And I would like, I mean, you can't imagine the amount of work that this woman has put into this whole thing. I've been talking to her for, almost 2 years now on the phone, and sometimes 3, 4, 5 hour long telephone conversations while she was making one discovery after another. And this is for real, folks. This is the real deal. And if you really want to be free, step up to the plate, take the bat, and hit a home run. Okay, so until next time, we are bidding you good night. Okay, that concludes the taped portion of the show. I apologize for the dead airspace that we had at the top of the hour. There was a major technical problem here with Blog Talk, with the Blog Talk Radio switchboard, and unfortunately I had muted my phone, so I was not able to say anything. Otherwise I would have been able to talk while I solved the problem. But because I'd muted the phone, it turned into a situation there. And I see one of our callers has disappeared. I'm going to roll 2 commercials, and then we will be back in just a moment. Outrageous taxes, out-of-control foreign adventures, armed black-suited thugs breaking down your door at 2 a.m., forced vaccinations, stealing your children away from you because some nosy social worker doesn't think you're giving your child proper medical care, or confiscating your apartment building because your tenant was smoking a joint, stealing your house because a greedy developer bribed corrupt local politicians. On and on it goes. It seems to be a never-ending story of woe caused by a government totally out of control. Don't you wish you could simply take it all back? Don't you wish you could tell these bureaucrats to bugger off and mind their own business? Don't you wish you could just stop worrying? Well, now you can. FlyNational.org is a website that tells you how to burn the bonds that bind you. FlyNational.org tells you how to take it all back and get the peace of mind from having absolute rights just like you thought you had all along, but realize now you don't. Pay a visit to flynational.org and get off the slave plane and onto the freedom plane. That's flynational.org. Are you tired of high bank charges? Are you tired of being spied on by your bank and government? Are you tired of waiting days or even weeks for transactions to clear? Are you tired of the Federal Reserve manipulating the value of your money and coming out always on the losing end? Listen, if you always do the same thing, you're always going to get the same result. In order to get better results, you have to leave the herd and do what is right for you. You have to learn new, better ways of conducting your financial affairs to avoid these pitfalls. The solutions to the problems of modern financial life are right at your fingertips, waiting for you to grab them. Now, you can store your hard-earned money where it belongs, in gold. Now you can transact your business instantly around the world. No matter where you live, OffshoreCashier.com brings you a whole new world of sound transaction processing and is your gateway to safe offshore storage of your assets in gold where they belong. Listen, stop playing the same stupid games that lose you money, get you spied on, and cost you a fortune for the privilege. OffshoreCashier.com is your gateway to a better way of handling your financial affairs, of getting your assets out of harm's way, into a safe haven yet still accessible. And, best of all, you don't have to already be a millionaire to use OffshoreCashier.com. It's inexpensive, easy to use, and safely offshore. So do the smart thing. Break free of the herd and find the comfort, convenience, and safety the offshore world offers you. We're at your fingertips at OffshoreCashier.com. Okay. Well, I see we may be having another technical situation. We seem to have lost one of our callers, but we have the main one here, the conductor on the Freedom Train, and I told her I had a surprise for her before we start talking. Here's your surprise, Ms. Freedom.
Yes.
If it's going to play. Well, there we are. There we go. How are you this evening?
I have motion sickness. My goodness.
Oh, dear. From the train?
Yes, your train was very real.
It sounds pretty good, huh? Yeah, I don't know what
like
happened to your friend here. She was online the whole time. I wonder if she thought we were concluding or something because she either hung up or got cut off. I don't know which.
I have no idea.
Oh, okay. Well, I've still got Skype open. I can try and Skype her and see if she can come back in, unless you want to do that.
Oh, I see. Okay, well, she Skyped me, so I will go ahead and send her a message.
Oh, okay. Did she think that the program was ending or something?
Yes.
Oh, dear. I thought you had explained to her that, it was a taped interview for the first part.
I did.
Well, this seems to be the night for technical glitches. The thing that happened at the beginning of the show hasn't happened before. And all of a sudden, I have a switchboard here that works just about like a real radio station. I know you haven't seen it, but I have sound files that I can play on one side. and on the other side I have it says switchboard at the top, and it has the phone numbers with the people in, and I can mute them and unmute them, and it gives me a countdown of the amount of time we have left, etc. And so these are controls like you would have in a board at a radio station. And the controls were frozen when I tried to unmute myself and tried to play the interview. And I had to log back into the system, and because I had muted my microphone before, because I was just planning on playing the tape right after the opening music, and when I pushed the button to play, the file wouldn't play. So anyway, we're going to have to edit that part when we're going to have to edit out the silence when we put it on our website. But do you have anything to add to what you've been talking about in this three-part interview?
Not without you asking some questions or somebody asking me some questions. I spend so much time with this that it's very difficult for me to select questions to put out onto the air.
Right.
I can't think of questions.
Well, that's what
Other
we
people
had.
think of questions. I think of answers.
Right. That's why we had your friend there calling in. Has she answered you yet?
No.
Oh, she hasn't. Maybe she just went. But she wouldn't be going to bed this early. She's on the West
Coast. There was no opening for me to jump in and ask questions. I got on right at 8:30. What time did it start?
Oh, okay. I think she didn't understand what was going on. That was a taped interview. We'll see if she can call back in, because she's the one that would have more questions than either one of us, because we conducted a.
She said, I cannot get the line. It's dead.
It's dead? I don't know. We're supposed to be able to accommodate 5 people, and you're the only one in there. See if she can. If it says all circuits are busy, like I told you before, she just needs to wait about 30 seconds, and it'll come through.
I explained that to her before.
Yeah, have her dial back in one more time and see what happens. Otherwise, I'm going to have to think of some questions. Well, we've been going. We've been doing shows now for. This is a week and a half now, and this is the first time that we've had any problems. Last night went off pretty well, and no technical glitches like we had tonight. But has she answered you back again?
No, I said try to dial in again. John says he can't understand.
You know what we could do?
Could be dead.
Is your three-way calling working?
No, I don't have any idea how to even use it. So this is Vonage, remember?
Yeah, well, it's working for me, although I could try to call her, I guess. So if you want, I could try that. Have her dial in one more time, and if it doesn't work, I will do a three-way. Because she's the one that had some real good questions.
Well, I just said try to dial in again. She says she's online. The Skype says she's online.
I don't see her here. I do not see her on the switchboard. She should pop right in. Unless it's frozen again. But
I have no idea.
I don't see any evidence of that. Well, why don't you Skype me her phone number, and I will dial her. Just tell her I'm going to call her.
Okay.
Sorry, folks. We're having a night of technical problems here.
Mercury's retrograde. What can we say?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it's certainly something.
Okay, phone number. Okay, hold on just a second. 7.
Let me turn back here and see if she's popped back on. No, she hasn't. She was here for the first little bit. Now, of course, if this messes up and it disconnects us for any reason, it will probably terminate the show. But we will try it.
There is her number.
Though it hasn't come through yet onto my screen.
Well, I just sent it to you.
Let me try to send you a Skype. Oh, there it is. It just popped in now. It took it a minute. All right, I'm there's going to be, actually, let me roll another commercial while I attempt to do this bridge. That way there won't be any dead air. Does it seem sometimes that everything that can go wrong does go wrong? Does it seem that your life is a barrel full of monkeys and you're the monkey? Does the law of attraction work for you in reverse? Well, now you can change your life for the better. You can get what you need now for success in life. Now you can have the life of your dreams starting today. Surf on over to successquest.info for tons of material on how you can succeed in every phase of your life. If you always do what you've always done, you're going to get what you've always gotten. Break free of your rut today by going to successquest.info. Set your foot on the road to success today by going over to successquest.info. You'll be glad you did. Okay, Sharon, do we have you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, great. If you can't call in one way, we'll call you. How's that? But I don't know why you couldn't dial back in. You were here before. It was just, you said it was just dead air or something when you tried to call in?
Totally dead air. Uh-huh.
Well, I think Blog Talk Radio must be having some problems tonight because, as I said, the switchboard just froze up on me at the top of the hour. That's why there was dead air for, about 5 minutes because I had muted myself. I can mute and unmute people just by, clicking a little microphone icon here. And since I was going to play a taped interview for a half hour, I muted myself so, any unexpected noise in the house here wouldn't, come off onto the show. And then when I tried to unmute myself, it wouldn't work. When I tried to play the interview, it wouldn't work. And I had to log back into the whole system again. Anyway, so here we are. Nancy, are you still with it? I mean, Ms. Freedom, are you still with us?
I'm still here.
Okay, now we're all here. Go ahead. Why don't you ask any questions that you have, Sharon?
Are we on the air?
Yes.
We are on the air.
Okay, because I thought you had signed off.
Nope.
Oh.
No. That was a tape.
Oh.
See, that was a tape. That was
then I do have
was
a
a
couple of questions
pre-recorded- that
for
was
your
a
audience
pre-recorded tape
listeners
interview.
would like to know. Pardon me?
You talked over each other.
I said that was a pre-recorded taped interview.
Okay, fine. I didn't realize that. Anyway, one of the questions I'm sure your listeners would like to know is, what about passports?
What about passports?
Yes,
there is a passport that reflects the status of American national sovereign. It does exist. We do not have the methodology of exactly how to obtain it yet. That we know that it exists, but we don't know the forms that are that they require. If they do require forms, I know that they require an affidavit. They ask that you get the form for obtaining a passport and then attach it to an affidavit describing why you disagree with having to fill in some of the supposedly required information. That's part of it, but we don't have it all down pat just yet. I will be honest with you, I can't answer that question completely. I've only got a part of an answer.
Okay, well, but I would still be able to travel.
Oh, yes. There is no reason why you can't travel on the existing passport, even though it says citizen of the United States, because you will have made it clear in your affidavit of fact and truth that you do not accept any obligation of bond with regard to that terminology, that you use that terminology only as a matter of necessity because the government has put you in a position where you have to live in the world, you have to function, and they leave you no options. So therefore, you reject any obligation associated with whatever they force upon you. It wasn't your choice. You do it only under duress and coercion because you have been given no other option, and you have to function, you have to survive, you have to move from point A to point B, you have to earn a living.
Okay, another question. What about my driver's license?
Your driver's license is not a necessary adjunct. We have had people who have changed their status, who have gone in for driver's license renewals and been told by the Department of Motor Vehicles that they are not required to have a license, when they insisted that they needed a license because they needed some kind of state identification to board planes, to get hotel rooms, and so forth. They were told by the motor vehicle people, employees, that they would assist them in getting a state-issued identification and that it was perfectly all right for them to sign it as agent only for the all-capital letter name. And it was issued.
Good.
It was issued with the reservation,
Great
correct?
that you're having success with that.
The reservation was put on right underneath the signature. The signature was signed by the applicant, and underneath was put as agent only.
Right. Normally the state wouldn't accept that, right?
Normally they refuse to accept any additions to a signature, any whatsoever, but the affidavit was taken in, was shown to the Department of Motor Vehicles, and when they saw the affidavit, they said, you are not required to have a driver's license.
Yeah, actually, why don't you explain for the people, Nancy, why he went and applied for that thing anyway?
Because he needed state-issued identification to board an airplane.
Well, didn't he also need it to check into a hotel even?
He needed it to check into a hotel. He needed it to, we've gotten to the point now where you have to have state-issued picture identification to breathe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really a sad state of affairs.
Now, is that true about
that
the
the way it is,
putting
and he needed the identification, and he was frustrated when they said you're not required to have a driver's license. And he already had a driver's license. He actually had a valid driver's license, but he had had a house fire, and the driver's license had been destroyed in the house fire. And all he was asking for was a replacement of an existing valid driver's license. And the minute they saw the affidavit, they said, you're not required to have a driver's license. So then he was quite, what am I going to do? I have to have some kind of state-issued identification. And she said, oh, well, that's no problem. We can issue you a state identification that will reflect your status. So they issued him a state identification, picture card, so forth and so on, and he signed it as a sovereign.
Very good.
And it works just fine.
Well, getting back to a passport, is this true that they're putting a chip in there?
Yes,
No,
there is a chip being put into all passports. I understand as of March of this year they are all going to be issued with a chip. But then they've changed the date several times, so I'm not going to swear to that.
Oh, they haven't started doing it yet?
I don't know. They keep changing the date. and they keep
Oh,
changing
okay.
the who is going to have it and who isn't. Now they're talking about issuing an internal passport for certain destinations.
Such as? Or you don't know?
I'm not sure. Canada's one. Mexico is one. I think the Caribbean islands. But
Oh,
they're
that's a
what they
card.
call
That's
an
a
internal
passport card rather than a book.
Correct.
You have any more
They've changed
questions,
their mind so
Sharon?
many times now on exactly what they're going to do and when they're going to do it that I can't keep up with it.
Okay, what about Social Security? When I turn 65, will I be able to collect Social Security?
Yes, you will. Social Security is a contract that you signed, and it had undisclosed adhesions. There was a presumption made that you became a U.S. citizen, but the fact remains that it is a contract, and you have paid into it all these years. Therefore, since they have taken your money, they are obligated to perform their end. There is no problem with people who have changed their political status. They are collecting Social Security, and there has been no interruption in it and no change.
The Medicare?
Medicare, no. Medicare is, we're talking about Medicare or Medicaid?
Either.
Well, Medicaid is not going to be available because Medicaid is another separate private contract with the state, and you literally sign away the rights to your own estate when you collect Medicaid. Medicare is another insurance situation, much like Social Security, and if you want to collect Medicare, you can. Medicaid is a no-no. Many, many people have cried many bitter tears because they collected Medicaid, and then the husband died, and the state came and took the house and threw the wife out on the street. And it was in the contract. It's just
they
that
have the
the
rights
only
to do
people don't read
anything
it.
like that. How would anybody have the rights to do something like that?
Because you sign a paper giving them the right to do it. It's called a contract. It's called private law.
Ignorance in this case is not bliss.
That's true.
Correct?
Yes, that's very true. Ignorance is not bliss. That's true. And very few people read. They don't even read the fine print in a real estate contract. You know that. They go to a closing and they just sign. Sign here and sign here and sign here. And oh, there's 2 signatures at the bottom of this page, and they all dutifully make all of these signatures, and everybody's happy, and they shake hands and they leave, and they don't have a clue what they just signed.
Certain it's a whole other issue. But
no, it's about the same situation. Somebody wants help, they've got medical problems, and they go down for advice to the local senior center, and they tell them, when you need to apply for Medicaid. Well, they'll help you, and they'll send in a nurse in the daytime and help take care of your husband and so forth and so on, and it sounds so good, and they go down, and the paperwork is put in front of them, and the people are so helpful, and they sign it, then they don't know what they signed. It's all a contract. We are functioning under contract law, commercial law. And everything you sign is a contract. And it is an agreement, and you have put your signature on it, whoever you are, whether it is a driver's license or a real estate license or something. You have agreed to certain stipulations. And if those stipulations were in writing...
Okay, what about my little checks, my checkbook?
Your checkbook, you signed a banking agreement when you opened that checking account. And you agreed to abide by all of the rules of the Federal Reserve. You don't have a clue what those rules are. And guess what? If you go into your bank and you ask to see them, they don't have them there. They'll send you to the main bank of the Federal Reserve. And there are people who have actually traveled physically to the main bank and asked to see the rules and regulations that you agree to when you put the signature on your signature card, and they have been denied the right to see those. And I don't know of anybody living who knows what they agreed to when they signed the signature card. But one thing that you agreed to in the Bank Secrecy Act, which goes back many years now, and that was a real misnomer because it was the last thing from secrecy. Actually, what it did was it removed all secrecy from your bank account, and it made it completely transparent so that the government can come in at any time and not only look at what you have in your account, but take it if they feel like it. And that signature card gives them permission to do that. But as far as the exactly what it says, nobody knows.
Well, this is why the people fear the government. It should be the other way. The government should fear the people, and then maybe we would have liberty.
But if you hadn't contracted...
Too many of our rights are taken away.
No, your rights aren't taken away. You signed away your rights. You agreed
but on ignorance
with them that for benefits, and one of your benefits is the use of the Federal Reserve notes. These are debt obligation notes from a private company. The Federal Reserve notes, the dollar bills, what we call our dollar bills, these are actually debt obligation notes that are put out into the public domain by a private company. And there is a presumption of obligation for their use. In other words, you use my property, you have to pay me.
But of course, your affidavit gives you a reservation of rights to use your bank account and the Federal Reserve notes, right?
That's correct. Using them under duress and coercion against my will only because I have no choice. And I will, in other words, you're reserving all rights with regard to that use. And you can do that because you do not have to, you have no choice. What are you going to use? What else is there to use?
Right. Well, I think it's totally
about
unconscionable.
The fiasco of the Liberty Dollar. Well, the government put them out of business, didn't they?
Mm-hmm. But I think it's
they are not going
totally
to allow
unconscionable.
any medium of exchange out there unless somebody wants to try to use wampum, and I think they'd find a way to put a stop to that.
Right. Well, they've attacked e-gold. We didn't talk about it last night in our program on the subject of e-currencies, but we probably will bring it up at some point. In fact, you know, you had talked, Ms. Freedom, about maybe trying to get Douglas Jackson onto a forum, and I think I'm going to try and get him on to an interview, and if so, I'm going to invite you to be a guest on the same program, because maybe he can get an education.
Well, this is a complex nest of snakes. It really is a complete and complex nest of snakes. But there is a way out. For everything in law that exists, there has to be a remedy. If there isn't, then the law cannot exist. There has to be a remedy. The problem has always been how to find the remedy and how to implement the remedy. The non-disclosure of all of these conditions creates a condition in law known as fraud. You have been defrauded. You have been defrauded by the non-disclosure of all of the facts and conditions
with regard to things that you've signed, everything from your driver's license to your bank card to your the SS5 form to obtain a social security number. All of these things had conditions that were presumptions. Once you had signed, put your signature on the dotted line, there was an automatic presumption that you had agreed to things. But you had never been told this. You have no idea what you were agreeing to, and it wasn't there in the fine print or any other print. It didn't exist. Nobody ever told you what you were signing or what it was going to mean. That is fraud. Fraud vitiates all contracts. Supreme Court says so. Your affidavit says, I was defrauded. Nobody ever told me in any way whatsoever, and it was their responsibility to tell me what the conditions were to my signing this document, this piece of paper, this form. And no one told me, therefore I was defrauded. Now, you want to say, well, they're not going to go along with that? They don't have any choice. Their only choice is to come back and rebut your affidavit with facts, Supreme Court decisions, and common law. And they can't because you didn't lie. And until they come back and rebut it and document that you were lying, prove that you lied in your affidavit, prove it with law, it stands. And you're free. You're no longer obligated. You're not a taxpayer.
So what was...
You're not a person. You're not a U.S. citizen. You are a free-born national of the state into which you were born.
What would
And you're not a federal
happen to
citizen.
the government?
Go ahead, Sharon.
I said, what would happen to the government if everybody decided to do this?
What would happen to it?
Yes, who's going to be
Hopefully,
paying for all these?
Well, let
what
me
about
put it
all the
this
money
way.
that they collect?
There
And nobody's
are
paying?
no. Let me put it this way. This is going at it from the bottom side up. We're reverse engineering this. There is no America. You know why there is no America? Everybody says, oh, America this, America that. There is no America because there are no Americans. They're all U.S. citizens. And there is a great disparity, a great gulf between the two. An American was a free-born national of one of the several states of the Union of States of America. There aren't any anymore, and if you don't have Americans, you can't have America. Well, the same would be true if, Lord help us, wouldn't that be wonderful, if every man, woman, and every child was not signed into slavery when it was born, if every man and woman swore an affidavit saying, I was defrauded, I was duped, and I do not agree that I am a U.S. citizen. Nobody ever told me that I was becoming a U.S. citizen or anything that had to do with being a U.S. citizen. I didn't know I was becoming a slave. Nobody told me. Therefore, I rebut the whole thing. If everybody did that, then there wouldn't be any United States because there wouldn't be any United States citizens. The United States is a cooperation. It is not a country. The United States of America was a country. It was a union of states that together made the whole. It has been changed to the United States, a proper noun, a singular entity, the United States, and it is a cooperate entity. It is a cooperation. Technically, what we call the president is actually the CEO. This thing has been morphed to the point where nobody really understands who they are, and they don't understand what the United States is. They think it's a country. It's not a country anymore. It's a big corporation, and you work for it. You're contracted to it.
It seems like once everybody finds out about this, they're going to want to leave this so-called country.
Well, it's very difficult, Sharon. I really don't think that everybody. I would doubt that there would be more than about 5% who would actually go through with this.
Do you think the politicians are sovereign?
Well, I know they don't pay into
Hello?
the Social Security system. I can't prove that they have changed their political status, but I know that they don't pay into the Social Security system, and I know that the law, according to the statutory, Admiralty Maritime statutory law, says that if you are a U.S. citizen, you must pay into the Social Security. That's a given, and they don't. So it kind of makes me suspicion that maybe they have changed their political status. Maybe they are in the know. I mean, they have to be in the know. The judges know, the federal judges know, and if the federal judges know, it stands to reason that the Congress people know. They know the difference between national sovereigns and U.S. citizens.
And there's even some very wealthy business people that also know, like the Rockefellers, etc. They know about this, and they use it themselves.
There are lawyers that know. I have a friend who is a police officer in New Mexico. And he called me one time, and he told me that he had stopped a speeder. And car was a very nice car, Lexus, I believe, or something. And it was exceeding the speed limit by a lot. And he pulled him over. And he said he walked up to the window, and the fellow handed him this document. And he said, "What's this?" And he said, well, no, actually, the way it was, he started to flip open his ticket book. He asked him for license and registration, and he gave him the license and registration, and it was all proper. And he flipped open his ticket book and started to write a ticket. And this gentleman in the car said, "Officer, don't waste your time. I'm not subject to your jurisdiction or your laws." And he said, "Excuse me, sir?" And the man handed him this document, and he looked at it. He'd never seen one before. And he looked at it very, very carefully, and it was all properly certified, recorded, and sworn, and everything. And he said, "I am a national sovereign." And then he gave him a business card, and he said, "If you need to call your supervisor on your radio, go ahead and do so. Here's my business card." And he was an attorney for the city of Albuquerque. So he knew, didn't he? He had an affidavit. He was a national sovereign. He was an attorney for the city. They know.
He must have reserved his right to be an attorney then.
He was an attorney for the city. His card identified him as such, and he called it in to his supervisor at the station, and they said, he is a national sovereign, let him go. So they know. It's only us sheep out here that don't know. And we are so afraid. We are so afraid. We are so cowed and so brainwashed and so afraid. It's just so sad.
Sharon, do you have any more questions? Sharon, are you there?
I am. I'm sorry I had you on mute.
Oh, okay. We didn't hear anything from you for a few seconds. I thought maybe the call got dropped or something. We've had so many problems tonight.
Here. Any more questions? Actually, I did have another question. I forgot it, though.
because we've only got about 8 minutes left, so we got to wrap this up here in about 8 minutes.
Okay, well, my next question is, when are you going to be on the air again?
Well, with this particular topic, I don't know. I do this program Monday through Friday, usually from 10:30 to 11:30 my time, which is 8:30 to 9:30 your time. But I cover lots of different topics. In fact, tomorrow night we're going to have a show on health you might be interested in, and we're going to have Ms. Freedom and another guest.
Now this is alternative health we're talking here.
Right, and I think we're going to be talking about colon cleansing tomorrow night.
Oh, now there's an interesting topic.
Right, well, that's what he said that he wanted to talk about tomorrow night. So,
well, believe it or not, right now I'll tell you that's probably one of the most important topics that you can possibly talk about. They say that the colon is your lifeline, and boy, that is true.
Right, if your stomach's messed up, everything else is going to be. So we're going to be talking about that tomorrow night, Sharon, at, well, I guess it'll be 8:30 your time, 11:30 Eastern. That show will probably only be about an hour, and hopefully we won't have any technical problems. You can either listen to it from one of my websites, or you can call in, if you can get in.
That's funny.
You can call in, and you don't have to talk. I'll just leave you muted if you don't want to say anything. Or you can participate in the conversation if you'd like to, if you have any...
I certainly have a couple of questions to ask about my colon.
Oh, okay. Well, why don't you try to call in tomorrow night, and if you want to participate, and for some reason the system won't let you in again, I can always do it three-way again, as long as the other guests are able to call in. I think maybe if you call at exactly at 8:30 or a little bit before, you'll probably have less problems. So,
could I obtain any of your archives on the web?
Oh yes.
What is the web, and how would I get a hold of Miss Conductor?
Oh, okay. Well, we have a page set up for that, which I ran the commercial for a couple of times, so I'm not going to repeat it.
Okay.
But they can go to flynational.org. That's flynational.org. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that website is still under construction. We have the first edition of the interview already on there, and we have some cute little buttons on that website that all you have to do is press it and it starts playing, or there's a download link if you prefer to download it and play it later. I will be uploading parts 2 and this part as soon as I get this part edited, because I'm going to have to take out the blank spaces. But you can get the whole thing from that particular site, okay? And also we're going to have an ebook coming out in, hopefully 2 or 3 weeks. And that website, again, folks, for those of you listening, is flynational.org, flynational.org. And the audio archives are in the audio page. Now, if you want to listen to our other programs, you can either go to directly to Blog Talk Radio /Ambassador. Okay, that's one way to do it. That's the program's homepage on Blog Talk Radio System. An easier URL to remember is ambassadorfoundation.org, ambassadorfoundation.org, and go to the audio page. And there's Blog Talk Radio has a cute little doodad on there. As soon as you hit that page, the latest program will start playing. And that is also a way that you can listen in live, because during the live show, it will be streaming over that little thing. I don't know, somehow it's embedded in the thing, and you don't have to fool around with anything. It just starts playing automatically. So if you want to listen on the web, that's a good way to do it. And if you want to access all the archives for all the shows, at the bottom of that page there's a little icon that says Blog Talk Radio, and you just push that, and that'll take you to the host page where all the programs are archived. So that's ambassadorfoundation.org again. We've got about 3 minutes left. Do you have any other comments, Sharon or Ms. Conductor?
Oh, I want to thank everybody for their patience with all our glitches and our almost theirs and finally got theirs. And thank you very much for your patience. And listen again. Maybe things will go a little smoother next time.
Yeah, well, as I said, I've been doing this for... this is, let me see, 5, 6, 7, the 7th broadcast at least. No, it's more, yeah, 7th broadcast, and this is the first time something like this has happened. Any other comments, Sharon?
No, not at this time.
Oh, we'd love to have you on the air tomorrow night. You know, same bat time, same bat channel. Same bat phone number. Oh, by the way, let me ask you guys something, because I don't know since I'm the host. Did you have to enter a code to get on, or it just rang you right through to the show?
I didn't enter a code.
Oh, okay. So it just...
No, I didn't either, obviously. You called me.
No, but I mean the first time, because you were on here. I saw
First time, no. No, I just called right in.
Oh, okay.
On that number.
So
I had to call it about 5 times before I got through, though.
Oh, really? What did it say? Did it
Nothing.
say...
It was blank air. First it would come on and then go off.
Oh, weird. I think they must be having some technical difficulties of their own, which is why...
It had to be at least 5 times.
Okay.
So.
That means their system has been sort of gummed up tonight.
Okay, it's a sticky situation.
All things considered, I think we did well. And I will wish you all a good night.
Good questions and answers.
Well, I think so. I'm sorry. I got off onto a rant. I tend to get pretty passionate about this whole thing. I should calm myself a bit, I think.
Well, no, it's something...
Well, you're very knowledgeable, and I would be able to really entrust all my contracts and affidavits with you and feel very confident that you could fulfill them.
So far, I have done very well. I am proud of myself. I was not a failure.
Right.
No.
You know, there's a big case going through right now, which we can't talk about really, but, you know, this is going to be... like a 1,000-pound gorilla, I guess, right? Right, Ms. Freedom?
Yeah, Wesley Snipes didn't know about you sooner.
Poor Wesley Snipes. Hey, his money bought him at least out of the worst of it. He managed to get out of the conspiracy thing, but they still got him on 3 counts of failure to file.
Oh, dear.
No.
We have about 30 seconds left.
Okay,
night,
thank
everybody.
you. Thank you for the show.
Oh, I thank both of you for calling in and making it an interesting evening.
Bless you both. I'll talk later.
Okay. Good night, all.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye. You have heard the Ambassador for World Peace program with M. John Allen, sponsored by the Ambassador International Cultural Foundation. For all literature and other resources advertised on this program, please go to our website at ambassadorfoundation.org. That's ambassadorfoundation.org. Please join us next time for the Ambassador for World Peace program.
Blog Talk Radio.